Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and today I'm going to do a double review. So these books have nothing to do with each other. They don't have anything in common except for I read them recently. Um, but one of them is a lot shorter than the other one, so I just have trouble. I enjoyed the book, but it's just hard for me to review a book that's shorter. I just really struggle with that. So I just thought I'd go ahead and just combine the two books, show them in one review. So it's more like, they just have me books I read the first week of May. So that's the only thing that they have in common. Um, and one of them probably would make more sense during the autumn time than the springtime, but I read it anyway because it's actually one of the books I got from the author event I went to a week ago. So let's talk about that one first. So this is Sophie's Pack by Da Chiara, and this is the author, one of the authors I met at the author event last week. And it was really good. This is very entertaining. It's a short read. I got through it within the hour before we were leaving because we went out of town to visit my grandma for a few days. So I was able, surprisingly, because we weren't ready to go right away. So I ended up while I was waiting, just went ahead and read it because it only has 10 chapters and they're short chapters. So this is a shifter story, and I'm very new to this genre. It's about our title character Sophie, and we learn from, her telling us, being told by the narrator that Sophie, her mom was like, her dad left them, abandoned them when she was a baby, and so it was just her and her mom. But then her mom had a lot of health issues. In fact, she would hallucinate, and then at one point she ended up accidentally trying to set Sophie on fire, and it ends up putting her in the hospital. And she doesn't even remember Sophie the one time Sophie goes to visit her. So she ends up deciding to start her own life. She gets a job in a newspaper in a local city, and she ends up dating the boss's son. But then the novel starts with him texting her and saying, we need to break up, basically. And you find out later that he's already moved on. In fact, he acts like she's, some crazy person when she tries to confront him about it after she catches him with this other girl. And when she ends up being late for work and gets fired from her job, and we are told by her boss that she has been late with deadlines. She gets reminded that she's late with deadlines, and she has been late for before. So she is in a really bad place in the beginning of the book, and she decides on the spur of the moment to see if she can track down her father and find out where he is. And so she starts heading in the direction of where he lives and ends up breaking down in the middle of a road, and conveniently is rescued by these, she's able to call this towing company, and is taken in by these two guys, these very attractive guys. And they take her to the town, actually, where her father lived, his hometown, and she stays at the local inn. And the people there are very welcoming and very friendly. And she notices that she's the only woman there, and they start acting really weird and suspicious around her. And when they think she's not there and won't be able to overhear them, they start talking, and they're acting like, oh, she's the one we need. She's so beautiful, and she starts getting a little weirded out by this, and she starts wanting answers. She's told that she can't leave the inn, but she does anyway at one point, and crosses paths with this one guy that's very hostile towards her. And I'm sure you can guess by the cover, there's wolves involved. Like at one, and it's just, and so this was really pretty good. I was very entertained by it. I like Sophie as a main character. She's very strong-willed, very stubborn. She has a bit of a temper. And I definitely felt sympathetic towards her and her situation, and just, Um, but she was also vulnerable as well. Like the other male characters, when they try to dominate her, she proves her own. And I mean, and you find out early on that she's very strong. Like, she has these blackouts when she loses her temper. She has these blackouts, or she ends up picking up chairs and throwing them, and so like by the cover and the things that she's capable of, you can kind of tell the direction this is going. And um, it was also now I was pulled aside by the author. She was able to catch me before I left, because this one sounded the most interesting to me of her works, because she has a bunch of works. She writes in multiple genres, and so she's a very impressive author. Like I said, she writes in multiple genres, and she has kids, so she's a mom. So she, is doing a lot, writing books and taking care of teenagers. So my dad and I were very impressed. And she did pull me aside, because she caught me at one of the other tables, and was like, I have a couple of sex scenes in this book, which I appreciated, because I probably give the impression of someone that is a little not exposed to that kind of stuff. But I assured her I was cool with it, and so I knew it was coming. It's just kind of funny that I was not expecting 2 sex scenes in the book. So there are 2. Like, Sophie, she finds herself drawn to these guys, and of course there's an animal quality, there's a primalness to Sophie and these guys, so she is drawn to them sexually. And so I was a little surprised by two of those scenes with 2 completely different guys. But I mean, I don't read this genre, that I rarely read this genre, but it was still kind of fun. Now the only thing is, on the one hand, I appreciate its length for the fact that I was able to read it within the hour, but on the other hand, I wish it had been longer, because I feel like the story felt a little rushed, and I felt at times like we didn't get enough development of all the other characters. Like, we get a little bit of development, but Sophie, I feel like, had the most development, and I feel like we didn't really get to know the male characters. So I really hope the author this book gets well known and popularized, and that maybe she'll continue the story, because I would love to get more to it, and get to know the characters a little bit better, the other characters. Like, they could see Sophie growing the pack, and growing as a character, and adapting and learning how to be a good leader, and maybe she introduces some females, because like I said, it was all males in this town. I did like there was at least one male character that wasn't in love with her. I did appreciate there was at least one, because all the other male characters were drawn to her and into her and everything, but there was one, well, technically 2 if you count his partner, his psychic. But I don't know how he felt. I think he was just, this guy was his boss in a way. So there were some action, but oh, and another thing about the sex scenes is they were descriptive, but I feel like it's more like they were PG-13, where like there was no F-bombs or anything, but it was descriptive enough. It was a very mature, but like it wasn't too kinky or anything. It's just kind of fun and sensual, and just very, and that's, and sexy. And then we have, and then the other thing I was going to say, there were some action scenes. There was one really big action scene towards the end of the book, when Sophie starts to realize what is going on in the whole wolf thing. Now there was one thing that disappointed. The one thing that disappointed me was that Sophie did not. There was one aspect of the plot that did disappoint me a little bit. That I was kind of surprised they didn't include it. But it's also a very short book. So, and Sophie didn't really, like, the way the plot went, I feel like I can understand why the author chose to go in this, to not do this, but it was also kind of like, I wish this had happened. See, I have trouble doing reviews for short books, and I'm trying not to spoil anything because I still want people to try this out, especially if you're, if you're a regular shifter reader. But yeah, so that was the only thing. But it was just a really fun read. Like I said, I like Sophie as a main character. She was cool. And I was intrigued by a lot of the male characters, and I did want to know more about Sophie's dad a little bit. I was definitely intrigued about and wanting to know more about him. So they were interesting enough, but I feel like not enough for me to really feel fully invested in the other characters. I was mostly invested in Sophie, and I feel, and if the book had been longer, maybe the author could have invested more in those characters. But other than that, I still think it was worth the read. Like, just a quick shift, story about, shifter story. With an interesting main character, and yeah. So again, it's a short read, so it's hard for me to really give a good summary. And like I said, this genre, this subgenre of fantasy is like, it's hard for me to do a review because but I want people to, I want to give this, put this book out there because the author works hard, she works hard, and I want people to read this book, and at least try it out so we can to help this author out, because I think it is pretty good. I think it is good. It's a good read. So that is Sophie's Choice by Doc Yara. I still don't know if I said that right. My dad said it right when she met her. She actually was like, finally, you're a person who actually said it right, but I don't remember what he said, how he pronounced it. So, but please check this out. Please. I really think she's a good author, and I really want her to get out there. So that is Sophie's Pack. Okay, so the other book. I finally read Anne in Green Gables. So I had seen the mini-series from the 80s, and I recently put it on my Amazon wish list because I would love to watch it again. I love the TV show. And I just wasn't sure. Because I'm not the target age demographic for this book. But I know a lot of older people love this book, and it's partly because of nostalgia, I'm sure. But this was so cute and fun and charming. I had a good time with it. I'm glad I decided to read it, and buy my own copy, and then I want to buy the series at some point, the rest of the books. But this is the story of Anne Shirley. She is this little orphan girl with fiery red hair and quite the personality. She is very imaginative. She's had a lot of bad experiences with being taken and adopted. They end up not wanting her anymore, and it's really been hard on her. And I think her imagination is what is kind of her defense mechanism for dealing with that. And she always tries to look at everything as positive. She tries to be positive about everything. But she's also very sensitive. And she's just such a great main character. And I don't know if I want to wait until after I've read some of the other books in the series. But I would love to do kind of one of those character videos I used to do, that I would do sometimes, where I talk about a specific character. So I think I could say a lot about Anne. And so at the book, she ends up being adopted by this elderly brother and sister, Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, who live together on their family farm. And Matthew's like in his 60s, and Marilla is, not that young either. And so they want to hire an orphan boy, adopt and hire an orphan boy to help them around the house. But due to miscommunication, they end up getting Anne Shirley instead. Now, Marilla is all like, there was a mistake, we need to take her back, but Matthew is immediately taken and charmed by her and tries to convince Marilla that they should keep her. And eventually, he wins her over. They both win her over, and Marilla decides to keep and raise Anne and teach her the ways of the world, and, help her learn to be, learn about, like kind of, work on her less acceptable traits. And it's all about her growing up. And living on this little island, Prince Edward Island, on this farm, making friends and like just going through life and getting into mischief. She gets into a lot of mischief. Mischief that kind of gets her in trouble a lot. Although she does learn from it. You know, it is true what she says. She always says that, well, I never do it twice. I do it once and then I learn from that and I don't ever do it again. And I think that I actually think that's kind of true. I think for not always, but I think there are people they will learn once, they will make the mistake once and they will learn from it. Like I feel like I'm, that kind of person where not every mistake I make, but there are mistakes I've made that I learn from them because I end up feeling guilty about them and feeling terrible and wanting to fix them. So, and make sure I don't make the same mistake twice. There's just so many great moments. There's one time where, so she's very sensitive about her looks. She is embarrassed to be a redhead. She always wanted to be a brunette or a blonde. And she kind of obsesses over her hair color. And she gets made fun of twice by it. But she loses it after she's made fun of twice and gets really upset about it. And then at one point in the book, she ends up buying hair dye from this traveling peddler and Italian peddler, and the dye turns her hair green, and she is forever traumatized by that, to the point where Marilla ends up, because it won't wash out, she has to cut Anne's hair completely off and eventually let it grow back over time. And they include that in the TV show. Like, I don't remember enough about the miniseries, although there was one review on the Amazon when I put it on my Amazon wish list and said, gave it 1 star. I was like, how do you people like this book? It's not even this movie. It's not even close to the book. They were very mad about the adaptation. And, but I am curious what they think about Anne with an E. Which the title is actually from a line in the book where Anne always tells people when she meets them for the first time and tells them her name, she says it's Anne with an E and wants to make sure that they add the E. Anyway, so I think that was a pretty good adaptation. Pretty close. There are some differences, obviously, but it's pretty close. Like I said, I don't remember the 1980s miniseries, but according to that one reviewer, it was not close at all. But yeah, this was, I love Anne's relationship with Matthew and Marilla. I thought that's very sweet. I love her, her relationship with Diana Barry is that's friendship goals all the way. And of course, there's her relationship with Gilbert. I think it's so cute that she's so like, I don't want anything to do with him. I won't even say his name. I won't even acknowledge him. And there's this competition between the two of them for who's the smartest in the class. It's really cute and funny. And now I know where they're going because, of course, the TV series Anne with an E, and then I do remember that from the mini series. I know where the two of them end up as far as their relationship goes. But yeah, either way, it's just so cute the way she's like, I refuse to speak to him, while all the other girls are fawning over him, think he's the cutest boy in the class and all that. But and so the book has kind of a like you could see these as separate individual little stories all combined into one, where like she, Anne gets into mischief, and then she ends up having to, and they try to fix it, like she or someone else tries to fix it, and then she learns her lesson. It's just such a cute and fun story. Like I said, I would love to do a Anne character discussion video. And I love these editions. I wish the rest of the series was in this edition, but I understand that this is probably expensive to do. And I don't even know if Anna Bond is still alive. Like, she might have passed away. I could look that up. But anyway, yeah, I just had such a good time with it. It's so fun and so cute. And I definitely want to read this to my niece one day when she's old enough to appreciate it. Like, maybe with her, wait a few years. But and I feel like I should definitely get a copy with more pictures. Because it's just a regular chapbook. I don't know. I don't think there's any pictures in this one. But yeah, I would probably want to get one that has pictures and a copy of, like, or although maybe by the time, by the time she's old enough and ready to read this kind of book, she might not need the pictures anymore. But anyway, so that was the Anne of Green Gables. And I did put the next book, which the ending was really sad. I did not expect the ending that it had. I was, surprised by how things went. But it did, But anyway, so that is my review of Anne of Green Gables. Like I said, at some point I would like to do a video discussing Anne Shirley as a character. But anyway, so that's my review. Those are my reviews for Anne of Green Gables and Sophie's Pack. Right now, at the moment, I am working on The Hobbit. My reread of The Hobbit. I'm enjoying it. And I'll talk more of that one later. So, if you guys like this video, this double review video, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!